Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Mark, the podcast where we explore the bold moves and real stories behind business growth and identity. In this episode, I sit down with Mark Friday and Emily Ostroski from RJ Telecommunications. Their story is packed with unexpected turns, from flipping houses and running a sandwich shop to taking over a telecom business and building it into something quite remarkable. We talk about leadership, learning the hard way, what it really means to take care of people, clients, and employees alike. If you enjoy honest conversations about business ownership, risk, growth, you're in for a treat. Make sure to subscribe, leave a review, share this episode with someone who needs a little push to bet on themselves. Got thoughts? Want to be a guest? Shoot me a message. I'd love to hear from you. Let's dive in. Mark, thanks for coming on. Emily, thanks
Yeah,
for being here.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, can you tell me a little bit at the beginning, like what sparked your interest? What got you into telecommunications? How'd you get there?
Well, I've always been interested in technology since I was little, 5, 6 years old. Got a first computer, broke it. Someone came over, showed me how to fix it, broke it, fixed it, broke it, you know, messed things up, then figured out how to repair them so I wouldn't get in trouble. So that just kind of sparked my interest. So I was always interested in anything technology. Just from a little kid, just from being young. Um, Always taking things apart most of the time, couldn't put them back together. But I was always curious, like what makes this thing run? What is this? What's inside? Um, so that's kind of where it started. Telecommunications is like it's a big word. It encompasses a lot of different areas. So the way I got into it was I was working at Meyer, and working with another coworker, and she went home to her father and said, "Hey, me and Mark, the only hard workers here at Meyer." And he said, "Well, let me talk to him." And he was the original owner of RJ Telecommunications, so he hired me. 17 years old, just started pulling cables, learning how to work on old phone systems, and then those were, starting to die out, and we started moving into, VoIP and doing other things. He actually backed a adventure of mine at 17. He put a little money in and started doing some host game server hosting for certain game titles because I played a lot of online gaming, 16, 17, 18 years old, and you know instead of paying $100 to $150 a month, I didn't have that kind of money, or even between my friends at the time didn't have that kind of money. We decided to pitch in, bought a 300 and something dollar computer, found a data center. Really wasn't even a data center. It was like almost like a server farm. You bring your own computer and you hook it up to our T3 connection, which was really fast at the time. And so we used that as our gaming server. So we didn't have to pay these other big game hosting companies. I think they were charging $150 a month because we wanted to create our own server, and we had like a team. So I was doing that, and he was like, "Well, let's see if we can make any money at it." So, he bought a computer, and we kind of did a little bit of game hosting. Other gentlemen I worked with wrote a little code so that you could start and stop restart your game server. If you rented one from us and you needed to restart it, because that was a big thing. So yeah, we had lots of ventures. I don't know how far we want to go in just yet, but I was kind of like, I have this roadmap where I'm going off left and right, but it's always or usually based around technology, or as you'll hear, food as well.
That's super interesting. Like, I don't even think I understand half of what you said, but I mean, like, okay, so you set up the server to do what? For other people to play
So
games?
basically, you can create your own. At the time, like now, it doesn't make sense because Xbox, all these places have their own big servers that you can go play on. You don't even think about having to go and pick a server click join and play with others, and you have to, oh, this one's full. Now I have to wait.
I kind of remember doing
Yeah.
that when I was
So
younger. Yeah.
we played a game called Rainbow Six Raven Shield, and we had a team. And one way for us to just practice as a team is we had our own server. We could invite other people that we knew. Um, and that way we had control. We're never like waiting for someone to leave so we can get in on a server. We had our own. So that was a benefit that we could just go on and play whenever we wanted.
That's so. Did you guys end up making money on it
Not a
over
lot,
there?
no,
Yeah.
not a lot. I think, I mean, being, I think I was 18 when we were doing this,
Yeah.
and not fully understanding all that it took to be a big server game hosting company. It was like I didn't know enough, but it was a good experience. Like we did have a couple customers, and but again, we needed to be in bigger data centers. We needed to have more powerful equipment, but it was a cool adventure to do for sure. And he trusted me and backed it. It wasn't a lot of money, but backed it to see if it would take off. And throughout me being at RJ, um, he put a lot of trust in me. Uh, Eventually became part owner, but you know, before that was just doing whatever I needed to do and needed to learn. So I would buy a crappy server, a piece of equipment, take it home, work on it so I could learn it, and then that knowledge allowed me to use it in the company or at work.
So fun. There's a woman I know who wakes up every day with one mission: help people who don't know how to escape. She's the president of Sparrow Freedom Project, and she lives and breathes this work. I've heard the stories of survival, pain, unimaginable strength. They'll break your heart and stay with you for weeks. This is not just an organization, it's a lifeline. Sparrow Freedom Project fights human trafficking and supports survivors right here in our community. They need our help. If you're listening and wondering what you can do, it's simple. Make a donation today. Donate now at sparrowfreedomproject.org/donate. It matters. She's given up so much to help others. Let's give something back. What defined your path into where you are now? Like, at what point did you say this is going to be your future?
I don't know if I had a roadmap that clear. Um, it was just like, what am I interested in, and what makes sense, or sometimes what doesn't make sense because I have failures too. Um, so I left RJ for a little bit, um, flipped a house, took that money, did actually well. It was during the 2008 crash. I bought a house for $7,900.
Wow.
Put about 8 or 9 grand into it. Roof, redid the kitchen a little bit, fixed anything, painted it, new carpet, fixed a new water heater, just whatever needed to be done. Sold it on a land contract. Sold that land contract to an investor. Took that money. Opened up a sandwich shop. Yep, opened up a sandwich shop, and then had that for, I don't know, 7 or 8 months. Uh, at the time, didn't realize what it fully took, how much time it took to like for a restaurant to like build enough clientele to where, because I didn't pay myself through that time, but I had employees that I paid and obviously bills and whatnot. But if I had enough cash, it probably would have gotten enough return business that it would have sustained a little bit. But one thing I didn't want to do was I didn't want to become, at least not in the restaurant business, the statistics of that. I went into $200,000 of debt trying to keep a restaurant open, since the restaurant business I knew was already hard just from watching, Restaurant Impossible or any of those shows that were on TV. I know people find themselves in lots of debt over a restaurant. And it's not something that I wanted to do. So once I kind of ran out of money, I was like, well, what do I want to do next? Um, Go ahead.
Yeah. So, what made you get into the restaurant business to begin with?
Loving food. I think that's where most people start.
Wow.
Uh, you know, it was at the very least um, a good learning experience. Um, it was a failure for sure, but I wouldn't not do it because I learned a lot about business. I learned how to deal with the health department. Learned how to deal with like a not so nice landlord. I know I had to deal with employees. Had to deal with what it actually means to work. I always loved working. If we go back a little bit, I started working with my dad. Um, 8, 9 years old, he ran a Coney Island downtown, and on weekends and certain days during the summer, I'd go in and help him. Whatever, to wash dishes, whatever, get the dishes off the table, whatever needed to be. He would always tell this story where he got super busy because it was just the line. You come in, you go in line, you order, get your tray. Down the line, he makes the food as people are coming in. So he's just like really busy, and most of the times he's running that and he's running the register. But he got super busy, so I looked over and people were waiting to pay. So I just went up there and I asked them what they had, figured out what button it was, and then I looked at the bill they handed me, figured out what button that was, and it told me what the change was. He looks down there, he goes, "What is Mark doing?" But the line's moving, so he didn't stop it.
Wow.
Yeah, so I just, you know, I'm not, I have not had a problem with responsibility or risk. Um, and yeah, like for the restaurant thing, I didn't want to go into that kind of risk. But trying things, I'm always willing to do.
Mark makes really good sandwiches.
Does he?
So yeah, I mean, the food thing wasn't. I'm half Italian and half black, so like the food's always been a passion of mine. I love making food, like taking risks with food, and um, sandwiches seemed like a good fit for me at the time, making those, and I got pretty good reviews for the customers I did have, but it just wasn't enough to sustain, um, you know, where I was. And looking back, I could have made better decisions about the location, about, um, you know, just some of the things I did, not fully understanding. But again, it's lessons learned, and you kind of move on. I was talking to someone today at a networking thing about what's the difference. He wants to find out what's the difference between someone who fails, gets back up, and tries again, and the person who fails and that just stops them in their tracks. He doesn't know the answer, and I don't know if I know the answer. Um, but I don't want a failure to stop me in my tracks.
That's a beautiful question that I think about too. But what kind of restaurant was it?
So just sandwiches. So we
So
had,
what are you really good at making?
well, I've done it right now. Trying to make more Asian cuisine right now, but I'm half Italian, so I made lots and lots of Italian food. I'm into also smoking. I have 2 smokers, flat top, the whole thing. So just love smoking different meats and then incorporating that into other dishes as well. And I'm not afraid to fail, like try something and it didn't work so well. We'll try it again a different way.
What's his best one, Emily?
The pulled pork sandwiches are really good. He also does a Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Oh,
It's really
Chick-fil-A
good.
style sandwich, yeah. So I mean,
so
it's basically getting the chicken to be flavored correctly, getting it to be battered right, and just toasted bun the right way, just all of that, just the details that go into it. Um, so yeah, I mean, I like trying, and the thing is, once I get it right, I'm moving on to something else. I haven't made those in a while because got to a point where I was very, very happy with it. So now we're on to something else.
is it any healthier than the actual
No,
Chick-fil-A sandwich? Oh yeah.
no.
That's awesome. Okay, so then after the restaurant,
Hmm.
so you said you didn't want to have that story where, you're $200,000 in debt, which is, I mean, I don't know how old you were, but that's super smart. And
Well, I was 24, 25 at the time, I believe.
yeah, and you
Yeah,
just shut it down or sold it or
just shut it down.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then what?
So let's see, what did I do after that? I think, um,
So was RJ like, because you said you worked there when you were 17 or 18, was it always in the background or?
I always kept in touch. But uh, the original, he knew that I had that kind of drive to be my own boss, do my own thing. And that'll kind of make sense as to how I became part owner once we get there. But after that, I believe where did I go work after that?
Family Video.
Yeah, Family Video was like, so I had an opportunity. I could go back to RJ, but I was like, well, one of the things I always wanted to do is run a video store. I love movies. I have a collection of over 700 movies, all in a database and, organized and displayed correctly.
Wait, what
So,
year is this?
so this would be like 12 years ago, 13 years ago.
Okay.
I mean, I've always Blockbuster when it was a thing going there, but Family Video going there, buying movies, renting movies, and mostly buying them. 'Cause once there's a cycle, they'll buy 30, 40, 50 copies of a new release, get their money back on the rental, and then they start selling them off, and then they just keep a small amount. So they'll make their money renting it out, and then they'll make the money back selling them as well. So I was always buying movies there. Most of my collection came from buying movies at Family Video. So always wanted to, I just wanted to run a Family Video or work at a video store. So I actually applied, and they wanted me to be a manager, and I was like, nah, I don't. I just want to kind of work here so I can figure things out a little bit. And she's like, really? Because I'm like, yeah. So she did convince me to take over a small store, and so I took over a small store in Walled Lake, or no, Whitmore Lake, and I did so well selling their candy sales that they would push that they're like, well, we got to move them to a bigger store. So then they moved me to a bigger store, and I actually became a salaried manager, and then did well there. And then they moved me to the largest store in this area. And then at that point, I changed district managers, and we did not get along.
Mm.
So then I was like, I think I'm done. And I kind of left there. And that is when I had enough money saved up. I took the summer off and I had 2 young kids, took them, or 3 at the time, took them to the beach every day. I just took the summer off.
Beautiful.
I knew I could get a job. Like I had no doubts that I could get a job. So once the summer was coming to an end, I applied at a few different places. I said, do I want to go back into food and learn the restaurant industry a little bit better, or do I want to go into something else? So I applied at AT&T, I applied at Comcast, passed both of their interviews. And actually, if I can tell you a quick story about my AT&T interview.
Yeah, sure.
They took all these applicants downtown and put us all in a room, made us, take this test to see if you're smart enough to work there. And then they start calling out names, stand up, and they don't tell you what this means. They don't tell you if it means you passed or you failed. All these people stood up and they said, okay, you guys all failed. Please follow me to the exit. I was like, what? And I was like, well, good. They didn't call my name. Because at first, you're like, well, they didn't call my name, so maybe I didn't make it. But no, they're like, no, you guys failed. Follow me out to the exit.
That's weird.
So I passed the test. They offered me a job. And I was like, no, that's not enough money at it. And I didn't. And the hours that they wanted you to work was pretty grueling. And it's like, well, if someone calls off, the workload stays the same. And you just have to work until the workload that is set is done. I was like, I don't think I want to do that. I feel like I'm just going to want to quit in like 6 months because I'm not happy working 12 to 13 hours when someone doesn't come in. And then Comcast offered me a job, a little bit better pay. Still didn't want to do that. I don't feel like going into people's homes and running coax and, having to deal with that. So this company called Dorch Enterprises, I interviewed with, they own 70, 80 Subways. They had bought the Halo Burger franchise that's located in Flint. And then they're like, we want to place you as a manager of one of our Halo Burgers. So I was like, maybe I can learn a little bit how to run successful restaurant in the food industry, see if I can learn anything and then take that and maybe go back into food in a different way. So worked there for a year or so, and they were not happy with the Halo Burger franchise because they were trying to run it as a Subway, and it just wasn't working the same way. So you can kind of see the writing on the wall. And actually, right after I left, they sold that off to a company in Texas. So while I was there, me and Bob, who was the original owner of RJ, talking. He's like, well, do you want to come back? I said, yeah, I think it's the right time now. So came back, and he wanted someone to take on a role of kind of running the business in a couple different ways. So one, just taking over the day-to-day like customer interaction and technical side, and then that led me into doing more sales as well and trying to figure out how to grow this business.
Wow. So you, after all that, you did the restaurant thing, you didn't like it, you went back to RJ. How did you feel about that after you left the food? You're like, I'm done with food, but RJ's, was this a moment where this is the journey for me?
Um, Understanding that I'm coming back and having to kind of build, and to kind of give you a little backstory, when we started, so before I left to do the food thing and everything, we had started doing VoIP and becoming our own phone company, and we brought in a salesperson, and it just took off. Um, and that got to a point where that salesperson and Bob wanted to split. So they were splitting the business that the sales guy brought in. He was taking that to another company, and they were basically paying for it. So they were buying that book of business and moving it to another company. So Bob had a decision to make. Do I take this big check, sell off RJ and just retire? Or can Mark come back, take on the RJ, the customer base that we have, and then grow it? So again, he gave me a chance. He brought me back in and just kind of waited to see what I was going to do. So kind of took over, continued to learn how everything should work, how we can improve, and just started improving from there. So it's like before I came back, everything was on its own. You know, every time we had to do a new customer, we had to buy a new server, had to buy, and I started virtualizing things. I started finding more efficient ways to do things, and just finding ways to use better equipment. Um, Started working on our own web portal, and just kept growing and pushing the growth, and just trying to find out where things were going and trying to make sure we're at least relevant in those areas.
What was your first impression of him when you met him when you were younger? And then was it at all different when you came back?
No, I mean, uh, he's pretty much the same person the whole time I knew him.
So like, what'd you think about him?
Well, I mean, it's kind of funny because uh, before he knew who I was, I actually asked his daughter out on a date, and he told her no. But then later in life, he told me he regretted that. But um, at that point, it was, we had both moved on. Uh, so at first, I didn't really know what to think of him. He took a chance on me, um, and let me kind of learn on the go. I'm very thankful for that, because we definitely made mistakes. Um, first first few months there, um, there was he wanted me to like redo their QuickBooks server, and there was miscommunication between me and the accounting person, and she said she had a backup. But it doesn't matter. The accounting software got erased, and they didn't have a backup. And at that point, he could have just like, I'm done. Like we got to go. We got to figure out how to figure out where we were with all our books. But no, he didn't let me go. You know, he Sure, he was upset, but we moved on, and that was a learning
Hmm.
point for me. And that that happened. Not mistakes necessarily like that, but like just letting me learn and grow. Uh, and I think it paid off. Because we were able to grow and sustain and hire more people, and be a company that started in '96 and is still going today.
Mm. From the home, from the restaurant and food that you did, from the video store, what are some of the greatest challenges, or is there any one that kind of sticks out, like something about you that you had to figure out in yourself, be like, this is who I was and what I thought it was like to be, and this is where I need to be, and I need to go this way.
I think what I'm learning now, uh, as I continue to work on this, growing RJ still, and being the complete full owner, um, is like there's not really a time that at least not right now for me, that I can just sit back and let things just come on their own. I have to continue to keep pushing, and sometimes that's hard. Sometimes I just want to be like, I need a rest, or I need to stop. But in little ways, you have to keep pushing, and it'll pay off. So like restaurant, I think I was working 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day, waking up at 5, going to get whatever supplies we needed for the day, and then not closing until 8 or 9, getting home and doing it all again 6 days a week. That was hard. Um, and if I would have kept doing that long enough, if I would have understood that, then maybe that would have been successful. I mean, outside of the money part, it just takes a lot. You got to keep pushing, and even when it's hard, you got to push through that. And then there is a payoff at some point.
Man, I love how you said, like, now, constantly. And I mean, I think this is true of most entrepreneurs. Like, if you really want to be an entrepreneur, you constantly have to learn, constantly have to face whatever challenges you have inside and recognize those and adjust.
Yeah, for sure.
Love it. From your perspective, what's something about, Mark's business now? So were you with them before, with the old owner?
No, I came on at the beginning of 2023 when Mark was planning to buy the company completely from the old owner.
Okay. What's something about his approach that stands out to you?
Probably just how he approaches everything honestly, and knows that he seems to understand that by giving his best and, acting with integrity, good results are going to come from that, even if you don't see them immediately. And that's kind of how he runs the day to day. He doesn't nickel and dime his customers. He gives free things to customers all the time, which I maybe shouldn't be saying, but that's not an advertisement. Um, but really, he just cares so much about taking care of the customer and doing things right. And all of that coincides with him planning for the future as well. Not necessarily the what goes around comes around thing, but he's going to do the best that he can, and he knows that he's going to get his reward for that.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you can think of a time when you didn't see kind of the end the way that he saw it, but it came to life, if you can share that, that'd be great. But if not, like, again, I'm putting you on the spot right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I can necessarily show how it came to life, but more just how I came to understand it. So I handle the everyday bookkeeping and finances, and so that's where sometimes we can, butt heads a little bit.
Let's see. I'll interrupt real quick.
Oh yeah.
I want all my employees to butt heads with me if they strongly are for one way over another. If I want to go left and they want to go right, well then tell me why you want to go right. Maybe I'm wrong. So I might be afraid to be like, no, Mark, that doesn't seem like the best way to go. Like, okay, well then tell me and let's figure it out. So butting heads is not always,
Yeah.
In the moment it might be like, well, a little frustrating, but if she ever relents pushing for something that she believes, I'm like, well, don't do that. Don't relent. Keep pushing if that's the way you think is right. And then not usually, every time we'll come to the right decision.
Yeah, I've become pretty comfortable with butting heads. But Mark I had to write up a quote for this cabling job for a customer, and Mark came back and said, no, we're going to do it for free. And that bothered me. But after, the headbutting happened, and after I could see kind of the impact that it had on the customer, I just came to understand that better, that, you know, Mark's generosity isn't something that is bad. It's something that's good, and sure, it needs to be tempered sometimes because you're still running a business. You still need to make money, which he understands. And so I shouldn't try to necessarily put a cap on that. If that's where his heart is, then, that's seems like the right thing to do.
Sure. What made you want to buy the company? Like what happened?
Okay, well, we can start
Yeah.
down that.
Did I
So
miss something?
no. Well, we're gonna
Yeah.
we're gonna start right there. So came back to RJ. You know, working, growing, learning, and we're continuing to grow. When I came back, you know, where I'll give some rough numbers. We're doing around 30K a month in just recurring revenue as a phone company. Um, not actually enough to support everyone that was there, because a lot of the business we were working on just got sold off. So it was kind of up to me and the people that were there to figure out how to grow this so that we can all continue here if we want to. And Bob, he offered the company to anyone who was interested. Hey, do you want a part of it? Everyone else didn't like that responsibility level. But I've never really run away from responsibility. I just keep adding more and more and more. Um, so I was like, this sounds good to me, but we have to figure out how that makes sense. So as we're growing, he could kind of see, we've had talks here and there, but he could kind of see that at some point I'm going to want to go do something on my own. So he actually gave me 30% of the company and said, this is partly because I know if I don't, you're going to leave and go do something else.
Hmm.
And I don't want to rely on everyone else who's here. So me being there allowed him to kind of relax and be, kind of somewhat retired, or at least not have to do the day-to-day and take care of the day-to-day with customers and whatnot. So he gave me 30%, very generous. And um, we just kept growing. But it got to a point where I wanted to grow, and it's going to cost money for us to grow. We need to invest in servers. We need to put a decent amount of money into good web development to have to have a billing system that isn't the QuickBook invoices type invoices. I want it to look nice and be functional. And that's going to take some money. So he didn't really want to invest that in the way that I did. So we kind of came to an agreement that it was maybe best now that he kind of just retires. And then we worked out, what it would take to buy him out, and that's the short version of how we got there. Um, but it was a longer process of going back and forth and kind of figuring out what made sense. And to be honest, it was not a fun experience. It felt more like a divorce in some ways because now you're having to split up money, not a lot of assets, but something that he started, he's also got to let it go. And so I think there was some emotional part on his side. There was me wanting to push forward my vision, and him being older, he didn't want to take that risk, because he's, whatever he takes or whatever he gets out of it, and with all his retirement, that's what he has to live on. That's what he would tell me. That's what I have to live on for the rest of my time here. And he didn't want to risk that, and I can understand that. So there was two different visions there, and then now it got into a point where I have to have a lawyer, he has to have a lawyer. So that part was a little bit rough, not a fun thing to go through. But I don't hold any ill will towards him or anything like that. It's just that part was not a fun part of buying it from him and kind of figuring that out.
How's your relationship now?
There's not
Yeah.
really one at the moment. I do, when the time is right, I want to reach back out, have them kind of come in and see where we're at now, because, when I took over, we're roughly around, you know, I'll just I'll just say around about between 50 and 70 K a month, revenue. But we've grown quite a bit from there. Um, when she came aboard, it was me, her, and one other technician. Now we're there's 9 of us, so we've grown quite a bit. I've brought on my older cousin to take on project management. So that's like also the other is like I can trust her. I can trust my cousin. I know they're both going to. They understand how I want to run things. Um, so having those two there are very important to me, because I can rely on both of them, and I know I can trust both of them, on the accounting side, and then with my older cousin, project manager, and customer care side. I know I'm not going to hear about her from a customer. Actually, I hear about her a lot, how much they love her. So I told her I'm sick and tired of people calling me and saying, "Oh, I love this," so yeah. Um, but to get back to your original question, there's not much of a relationship right now.
My next question was, did it pay off? Sounds like it paid off handsomely.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so I was already doing day-to-day customer care, sales, that kind of thing. But what I wasn't doing was any of the other business stuff, dealing with the accountant, making sure taxes got paid, making sure um, payroll got paid. I wasn't doing that part of it. So when I had to take over that part of it, that was a learning curve for sure. Um, I took over a business that was running well, and there's definitely some learning curves there in how to go about making certain financial decisions and making sure you're making good ones versus bad ones. How does this affect you in the future? Uh, Learning the roller coaster of a small business was something that I had to learn. Um, I talked to another business owner who's been a small business owner, owns 3 small businesses, and he talks about the roller coaster and how it's like some months you're up here and some months you're down here, and you have to learn to kind of take that on and not make decisions freaking out one way or the other. So that was definitely a learning curve for me.
Mm. One thing you said a little earlier was responsibility, take on more and more and more and more. Why'd you say it like that?
Uh, that never scares me away. So it's like I don't look at taking risk if I have to take a loan or I have to add employees. All those things are another level of responsibility that gets added uh, to me to my bottom line. But I'm always pushing to grow. So taking on that risk and taking on that responsibility. So if I hire someone, I don't want to hire them and say, well, in 3 months, sorry, now I have to let you go. No, that responsibility is I want this person's here working for me, working hard. Um, and I want to work just as hard to make sure that they get to have a stable job and that we're in a position to grow and everyone can be here for the long haul. So that's the kind of responsibility level what I mean.
Running a data center with, I guess, 9 people at this point, like you've grown well. I imagine it sounds intense.
So the data center part is we have cabinets in the data center. We don't run the whole data center, but we do manage networks for $100 million company, um, phone systems for $100 million company, all the way down to Leo's Coney Island. So we have very small and very large. The biggest thing that I'm always driving home to employees and to people potential customers, and it's hard to explain this to potential customers who don't know us. That's why, referrals are some of the better, like, when someone can recommend you, it's one of the better referrals. Um, is how much I care about taking customer requests, things that customer needs. I care a lot about those things and making sure they get done well. Um, Customers who've been with us for a long time understand that. We have a customer that's was the second customer of RJ. It's still a customer of ours.
Wow.
And it's because even though we've gone through many transitions, when they became a customer, we were just doing cabling and taking care of the phone system that hung on the wall. Now they've grown. Like when they started, they were only 3 people. Now they're expanding 2 different offices. They're doubling the size, and they're constant. I think there's 300 to 400 people now in the company. So he stuck with me. He stuck well with RJ, and then once the transition, he called me and said, "I'm very happy that you're now running RJ. I'm excited for you, and I'm here to support you." And I get that a lot from other business owners that have been with us for a while. But taking care of the customer is something that it's just what my heart wants to do, is take care of, but more than just customers, take care of people, including employees, friends, family, customers. Um, so for me, it's like I'll hire labor sometimes before I fully need it, because when someone calls, I want to respond to it right away. And I think that'll pay off in the end.
Hmm. Just like as an aside, like how many of your companies do you see grow? Not, of course, not to that level, but like really grow. Like maybe they've doubled their needs from you guys in the last, I don't know, 5 years.
Um, there's been a few. There's been nonprofits that we've had for a long time that have grown, merged with other nonprofits. So like
Hmm.
their staff has now gone from 4 to 5 to 900 plus. Um, Seen another customer that we've been doing a lot of work for, and now doing actually, again, taking care of their network, taking care of their IT, their phones, their internet. They pretty much take everything that we do. They're doing all of it with us. They've grown a lot. They continue to grow. They're building new buildings. They're bringing on new ventures. They're taking risks in a way. And I like learning from them. I'll go down there and ask them a bunch of questions. Well, why did you make that decision? Why are you doing this? And as a management team, they're able to come together, and they've, for the most part, always made the right decision, even when they've hit adversity. So like I like learning from other business owners who we take care of. But I've seen them grow. So I've seen quite a few of our customers grow. Uh, Another customer who started with one dental office now has 10, and we have all of their business. So definitely continue to see growth within our customers.
Yeah. The reason I ask that is because I always think about that for our business as well. Like and from a sales perspective, right? Sometimes we're dealing with clients who are really not qualified. So sometimes, I mean, we look at it as a risk. How many of these businesses do we really see grow like that? And are,
Again, I'll give you, I think I know where you're going. So taking on small customers for us doesn't make us a lot of money. Sometimes doesn't make us any money, maybe break even or even lose a few bucks.
yeah, it might not even be a small customer, but it might be like a difficult task for like not the right, return
Mhm.
maybe, but maybe in the future. So that's what I think about.
Yeah, for me, it's like I could turn away and had thought about turning away customers of a certain size, but knowing that we can take care of them and give them good customer service, and we can most likely fit within their budget, it actually is an opportunity for them to recommend us to someone else. So um, I don't look at it as like, well, we're only going to make $2 a month. It's like, well, no, we're going to take care of them. And then when somebody else, a larger company maybe buys them out, or a larger company asks them, or somebody else is doing something, they say, well, do you have a phone IT company, a cabling company that you recommend? They're like, oh yeah, RJ took us on. We were only 2 phones, and it's taking care of us. Um, and then that customer that we maybe didn't make any money off of is now turned into a bigger opportunity for us.
Also, if it's not necessarily the best fit, like project wise, like it's something that maybe we don't do the best, but we're still willing to try for the customer. And if we, improve whatever feature we're working on for that customer, that then becomes something we can offer to future customers, which has happened quite a few times. So we're able to grow our business with even our current customers once they figure out we're offering that feature, and then even get new customers based on that fact.
Yeah. And that's so true. And, I guess you qualify the person as well who you're dealing with. Would they be a good kind of partner to work with, easy to work with? Are they going to be someone I can ask for referrals? Not even too small of business. 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I turned down in the top 10 construction companies in Michigan. I turned down. They're on that list. I turned them down. Why? They wanted to dominate us with their terms and with their request. And I mean, one of the requests was, well, because like their construction for like the automotive, I guess they're just used to that 30, net 60, 90, whatever they deal with. It was going to take 5 months for them to get me set up in their payment system. And they wanted to do like a net 30 after they receive it. So the first order, I was going to have to wait almost whatever. But every order after that is going to be like 45 days, 50, 60 days. This is especially based on depending on your needs, like how much am I tying up on myself and what's the risk and all. There was no flexibility either. So it wasn't a good partner.
That makes sense. We have situations where someone's like, well, we have these 7-year-old phones that I bought on eBay or that we've been using, or, I want to just use this old cabling. And if we're not able to, and that's why when we bring on a customer with phones, we don't make them pay anything up front. We're like, we're going to include the phones in this cost so that it's easier on them. But if they still insist on using these phones that we don't use all the time, sure, we could connect them. But since we haven't built our platform around those phones, it's not gonna allow us to take care of them the way that we can if we provide the phones that we built our platform around, that we're used to, that we can train on. So then it's just not a good fit. If someone is like looking to, and we're not, super expensive, but if someone's like really just looking to save a few bucks, buy their phones on eBay and do it that way, at that point they can probably go find a nationwide company they can just connect their phones to and work that way. We're more into um, taking that burden off of the customer. So any of their needs, whatever category they're in with us, we want to take on making sure that is supported, maintained, and not on their shoulder, not something they're thinking about all the time. So, um, so there are cases where we're like, this is not a good fit. If you're not allowing us to bring in the equipment that we can make sure works for you, then yeah, it's just not a good fit.
What is a good fit? Like
So
when you look for somebody, what does that look like?
well, I'm looking for someone. Most of the people that we turn over are coming from bigger national companies. If we're just talking about phones that are just not happy with the customer service, not happy with the quality, and I'm looking for people who want to have a local presence, someone who they can rely on. Because I want to take that on. I want to make sure that whatever we're doing for them is something they don't have to think about, or if something comes up, they can call us, email us, whatever, however they want to contact us, and they know it's going to be taken care of. And it's funny, we took on a pretty decent sized customer, and at first he would send me long emails explaining everything in the way he wanted, like just over and over, just over explaining until he understood, well, we're going to take care of it, and he doesn't have to do that. Now he'll send an email, or if I want to make a change or if I want to do something, okay, go ahead, Mark. Like there's no more explaining. He wanted me to explain how we were going to do this process, or no more of that. He's just like, okay, we trust you. Like, and so that took a year or two to get to that point. Now anything he does, he's like, just shoot off an email to Mark and he'll take care of it. Like he doesn't have to follow up because he knows it's going to be taken care of. I'll follow up with him and, let him know, hey, this is done. Okay. Thank you, Mark. So I talk to him a lot less now, but it's because we have that trust.
Yeah. How has running like the day-to-day of the business changed for you since you bought it?
Well,
And how has like Emily's role kind of evolved over that too? Because I know she's like your right hand.
yeah. So when we kind of took over, like I said, it was three of us. I was still going out doing all installs, and actually she started doing installs with me. And now that we've grown up, like I said, the next person I brought on was my older cousin, who started taking over doing the installs, doing the training, doing the project management. So my role continues to where a role that I was in doing 100% of that, it keeps getting chipped away. So now I want to get to the point where day to day, I'm networking, I'm figuring out how to grow the business, how to get bigger companies to use us, and just kind of guiding where we're going versus the full day to day things. Now that's going to take a little bit of time, but as we continue to grow and add people, uh, they kind of continue to take over a section that I was doing completely. So one of our engineers, his name's Eric, has taken on completely the voice side where I don't even have to log into servers as often because he's already on top of it. He's already proactive, making sure things are done correctly. So less and less I'm spending my time working directly on equipment. I still will. I still will, especially customers who are used to like talking to me. I'll make sure I go in there and make sure things are done right. Make sure I'm following up with my team and them to make sure things are done correctly. And for Emily, like for both of us, it was definitely a learning experience. Neither of us have, well, I mean, I had run, my sandwich shop and some other things like that and been managers in management positions. But running a company, it was definitely a learning experience for me, for her learning. Like the first month or two that we started working together, we're rehauling the whole billing system with a web developer. That was one of my main priorities. I couldn't stand the billing system that we were using. So now she has to learn how to, talk to a web developer, put her and like not be afraid to put her thoughts in on things. Because like anybody I hire, like I said, I don't hire them to be yes men or yes women. I'm just what are your ideas? What are your thoughts? You're smart. Like I don't know everything. So what are your ideas? What makes sense? So her having to use that muscle to continue to like put her thoughts and 2 cents in everything that we're doing, um, I think was probably the biggest push for her. And she can probably speak on some of the learning curves or things that she's went through um, with us kind of having to learn a lot of these things at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to hear that and also how your role has kind of grown in the company.
Yeah, so when I came on, I was just, like Mark mentioned, doing the billing and like normal daily and monthly accounting tasks. And I had never done anything like that before, so I was learning while Mark was learning and while we were trying to change everything. So that was crazy. And yeah, that was what Mark says is probably true, that that was one of the hardest parts for me at the beginning and continues to be in little ways. Like I'm still learning in little ways how to basically own my position and you know, act like my thoughts about something are valid. And so I when it was just the three of us when I first came on, if Mark needed help at a job, usually I was the one going with him. We did cabling jobs together, which was super fun. I enjoyed that, but once we started getting really busy and continuing to try and upgrade our customer web portal, there was just a lot more for me to be focusing on in the office. And so when Mark brought on Elizabeth, which I think was in September of the year that you bought the company,
Mm-hmm.
um, she started handling more of those things. I didn't really have to leave the office anymore. And so that turned into me, now that I was more comfortable with the billing side of things, just figuring out, well, how can we make it better? And, Mark's always got new ideas about how to make things better. And I started seeing holes in things that we were doing. Like I kind of pieced together a new master services agreement.
Well, she's not giving herself enough credit. And so that process of having a terms and conditions and master services agreement, we had just one that was just like copied and cobbled together. And we had a lawyer that was working on it for us, but he was giving me oh, it's going to be another $500 because I need to do this, and it's going to be another 500. And Emily turns to me and she's like, "I'm sure I can write this better than he can, or we'll figure this out." And I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." So she spent a few weeks, maybe a month and a
It
half.
feels like it was
Yeah, it was, and researched, figured out what language needs to be in there, and what makes sense. What do we do? What do we need to be covered on? What do we need in there? Um, and now it's beautiful. It's great. She figured it out and she did it. And that was, her kind of stepping up and saying, I think we're going to waste money. This lawyer keeps $500 here, $500 there. And he's not understanding what we want out of this thing. So that was like a thing that she took on that has turned out really good. And it, was a learning experience for her. And it was a moment for me to like trust that she could do it. So it was good on both parts because she did it, and now maybe not a good thing. Now I'm like, oh well, then she can do that. She can figure this out. And then she had to figure out government contract stuff for us. She's had to like dive into these really tedious tasks and figure them out.
which I hate doing.
But she does a really good job at it.
And
Wow.
it's been good for me to have to figure that stuff out, and I guess just have to step up in that way. And it's also been empowering. Like, now I know I can do something like that. So that's pretty cool.
I know who to call when I need some advice now.
Please no.
Yeah. Cool. So government contracts now too, right?
We're getting there. It's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
And a lot of, you have to reach out to customers and vendors, and they have to kind of sign off on you too. You can't just like, oh, I want to be on a vendor for government contracts. You have to get people to vouch for you. So there's a lot of work in getting all that paperwork correct and formatted the way they want, and so it's been a lot of work. Where I think we're near the end of it, where we'll get approved and get put on the marketplace. But so not sure what that'll bring,
cool.
but it I know it can't hurt.
Yeah. So cool. I was thinking about like the sales and marketing when you kind of brought it up. So is that like for you guys that one department, or is it two separate?
So sales and marketing is something that we're still working on. I'd like to bring on a full-time salesperson, but I gotta find somebody with the right fit. And that just hasn't happened yet. I think if we had a full-time salesperson, our growth would be even faster than it already is. But I don't want to just bring on someone and waste a salary or waste their time, my time. And so I'm trying to find someone that has the right fit to kind of take on that role. Someone who's got energy, someone who's willing to work hard, because sales isn't easy, and talking to people all the time and getting rejected is not easy, and it takes a certain type of person. But I've met a lot of salespeople who don't have integrity, and that's not what I want here. Like, I don't ever want to be selling customer things they don't need. I've had people bring me jobs. Oh, look, you could get away with selling them all this. I'm like, I'm not interested in doing that. I meet with customers. If they don't need anything, I'm going to tell them, you don't actually need anything. They got scared by some other IT vendor. And I said, you don't actually need all that. This is why. And I try to have a practical approach to them and explain it to them. Here's some practical ways that you can like have your network configured or whatever it might be. And you don't need to spend $2,000-$3,000 a month based on fear that somebody else put into you. So I want a salesperson with integrity. I don't know if that exists. I think it does. I think there are some salespeople out there that can do that, but we just have to find the right fit.
How about marketing? What do you guys do for marketing?
So we're in a couple city lifestyle magazines, because the guy who runs that, his name's Todd. Love Todd. And, he's a really good networker and connector. And then we've gone up to now. We've been with some like big, like, marketing places that will put you on Google and do all this, but they didn't really take care of us. Or they weren't approachable. Like, they're looking at volume, and we were just another pea in the pod. Just, you know, so we kind of, after our contract was up with them, we kind of started doing little things on our own, like the magazine, like BNI, like chamber. We're in a few different chambers. Before we got super busy, we were real busy last quarter, last half of last year. Before that, we had 4 of us going out to chamber events and different things. Then we got so busy, none of us could go to any events. So, yeah, I mean, we just kind of piece it together here and there, and you know, see what sticks. And we've gotten definitely some work out of continuing to go to these networking events, and so it's been good, and getting your name out there and meeting people and kind of practicing talking to people and giving your sales pitch is always good.
So cool. If you were not running this company right now, what would you be doing?
Car detailing business.
Maybe. Yeah, I do like car detailing. I like detailing my own car. I don't know if I like detailing other people's cars, but um, it would be I'd have to be running something. I'd have to be doing something on my own. You know, I got approached a couple times to, hey, can you come take over this division? We'll make you VP, take over this division. We'll make you head of this. You know, I had one guy tell me, hey, I'll talk to Bob for you. Just come work for me. And I'm just like, you can't offer me the freedom that I have being part owner of this company. And then I knew at some point I'd be the full owner. And I say freedom, there is freedom in it. If the buck, the ball stops with me. So like if something happens and everyone's sick and everyone's gone, everyone quits, it's my responsibility. So in that aspect, it never stops. So some people could feel trapped that way, but really there's a sense of freedom to be able to not necessarily do what you want, but like have the ability to like give what I want to give, to treat people the right way. That's the kind of freedom I'm talking about. Whereas if I'm stuck in someone else's rules or regulations or however they want to run their company, I got to follow what they want. It's their company. And I don't want to do that. I want the freedom to kind of run it the way that I want, and hopefully be successful enough to keep going. So I'd have to be doing something on my own, whether it's car detailing. I don't know if I'd be in the restaurant business or not, or maybe doing a few different things. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. I do want to ask about the future of RJ and what that looks like, but have I left anything out? Is there a question that I didn't ask that I should have asked?
Do you have doubt that he should have asked me?
I don't think so.
Okay. Are you?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
So what does it look like? What's next for RJ?
I mean, my goal is to get RJ to a certain size, running well, having hired the right people. And I mean, I can actually, if you want a quick story about some of the struggles of taking over a business, I don't mind sharing a story that it was one of the toughest things I had to do since being a business owner, and that was having to let somebody go. Someone that I knew for almost a decade, and I don't want to go into the particulars of what he was going through or why, but I knew that the company could not grow if he was still there. So I had to make the hard decision and let him go, knowing that it was going to be tough for him and not knowing if it was going to like spiral into something else for him personally. Also knowing that then I have to take on the role of everything he was doing until I find a replacement. And it almost felt like there was a mourning process there because of how long I knew him and how much it hurts me to have to actually do that. And for the first time, having to let somebody go that I knew that well. I had to fire people when I worked at Family Video and other manager roles, but they made it pretty easy. And I didn't know them that well. It wasn't a fun thing to do. This hurt. So you have like, if I didn't do it, I would be enabling him and enabling his behavior to kind of rule what was going on in the company. And I tell you, after I made that decision and then hired someone to replace him, we grew a lot right after that. And I don't know if we could have grown if he was there. I think too many things would have fallen through the crack, and we would have made a few too many new customers upset. So it was the right decision at the right time, but it wasn't easy.
It's a hard. I mean, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And figuring that out and overcoming that is, necessary.
Yeah, for sure.
Good for you guys.
The future, so wanting to get the right people in the right roles. So sales is one of them. And then someone to come in and replace the technical side that I still cover are the next, I think, two things. Getting that right are the next two roles I need to fill. And getting to a point where I am, like I said, I am guiding the company. I am doing more networking. I am getting our name out there, having more time to just get our name out there and recognized is what I want to focus on. I also want to, I told you that I flipped a house. I don't want to flip houses anymore, but I do want to buy some rental properties to have as another revenue stream at some point. I'd like to take on one other thing in another industry, not sure what yet. And I'd like to actually get to a point where I'm not taking a salary from the company, still there in a main role, but having enough revenue stream from these different things that I'm just taking dividends, and that's enough so that the company can continue to grow without me taking that draw. So that's some of my next few year goals.
And in the meantime, before or kind of as we move into being able to hire that salesperson and that second tech who can take over the other stuff Mark does, we're really trying to like hone in on all of our processes, like the site survey, the quoting process, and the customer onboarding processes. These are all things that, we don't necessarily have a standard of procedures for, that we really want to hone in on so that we don't have growth that we can't support, and so that our customer service doesn't suffer throughout that growth. We really don't want that to happen. So I think right now, specifically, we're trying to do our due diligence so that we can have that growth in the future.
And as an example of making sure we have that level of customer service, last week, customer who I'm second, like I said, second customer we ever had texted me, Mark, this certain thing isn't working right. Can you please, fix it and let me know? Before he even knew, I had a technician on site. It was already fixed because it was just a back end issue. Already fixed, had a tech on site to test it on site and to talk to him. And I got a text message an hour later. Mark, thank you very much for taking care of that so quickly. Appreciate you. And that's what we want to do. So even if there is an issue, we're taking care of it so quickly that now they're sending me a text message and saying thank you, that kind of thing. So that's the level we want to maintain. Even if it costs me a little bit of money now by having labor that sometimes doesn't have a lot to do, that kind of response is how we're going to stay in business and how we're going to grow.
I really think you are going to grow. Understanding you guys now is, yeah, I've known you for not that long, but dude, what a story. So fun and cool. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's some great things for you guys in the future. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Good to have you guys. And
this was great. Loved it.
Awesome. Glad to have you guys here. Thank you again for coming on.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll talk.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, see ya. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Mark. Shout out to Mark and Emily for showing what's possible when you lead with your heart, hustle, and a whole lot of grit. If this episode hit home for you, here's what you can do. Subscribe so you never miss an episode. Drop a comment or a DM. Let me know your favorite takeaway. Share it with a fellow business builder who needs to hear this. If you got a story worth sharing or know someone who does, reach out. I'm your host, Joe Toma. I'll catch you on the next one. Let's keep making your brand unforgettable.